Did you know that large organizations like casinos, hospitals, universities, three-letter agencies, the Department of Defense, and most large public safety agencies rely on data aggregation, organization, and presentation? Hi, I'm John Paul with Icom. Today we have Chad Salman from Datalink with us, and we're going to talk about radios in action and their role in large event and data aggregation. Thanks for joining us, Chad.
Thanks for having me, John Paul.
Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into some of the details?
Sure. So I am currently the International Sales Director for Datalink Systems, who is a software platform provider. Currently, I've been with Datalink for almost a year now, but prior to joining Datalink, I was with Garmin International for 15 years, where I managed essentially an ecosystem of telematics solution providers around the world that wanted to integrate Garmin hardware into their overall system design. Prior to Garmin, I was in the wireless space with a company, if you remember, called Nextel before they merged with Sprint. So I have essentially been in the wireless data, GPS, telematics technology space going on 20, 25 years now.
That's a pretty well-established set of credentials. So clearly, you've started in telecommunications and worked your way through the data side of things, and it's impressive to see where you've landed and how successful you've been. So we appreciate your time today to share with us some of your opinions. What I'd like to do is I'd like to take us down a path of where those telecommunications, that background that you had with Nextel, for example, how it brought you to today, and what you learn and how you pull from that. But one of the things that I learned about you while I was doing some preparation was that you went to a little tiny school, right? What was it, William Jewell?
William Jewell College in Liberty, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City. So I went to William Jewell initially for baseball because I had an opportunity to continue my playing days. But I also enjoyed the idea of a small college where I would have an opportunity to get to know my professors, get to know my fellow students, and really be a part of the community versus going to maybe a larger university where, potentially I could be, quote, a number.
What I was really impressed with was one of the things that they focus on is experiential learning, critical thinking, and the whole package that they want the student to learn from their own lives as well as the classroom. What I'm hoping is that you'll be able to tell me that motto has really seemingly carried through your career.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. So I'm, probably if you would ask anyone that I've, worked with at any of the organizations, I'm kind of notorious for being outside the box. I struggle following, set guidelines and rules for lack of a better word, because I always think that there's a better way or a potential opportunity that maybe someone who's trying to stay within the bounds of their four walls don't necessarily see. And so I'm excited to especially be, landed at Datalink Systems, because I see just a tremendous opportunity where we can help a number of organizations, government, schools, you name it, and really bringing everything that they do on a daily basis into one common platform, which is quite unique. So, exactly what you said, John Paul, just continually to think of, how can we bring solutions to the table that may be different than traditional thinking minds might, bring forth.
I guess that makes you the bad boy of command centers.
Wow. Yeah. So I've been called worse.
No, look, when looking through things and reading all of the things that your colleagues in the past and present have commented, they definitely refer to you as that outside of the box, solutions oriented thinker, and I think that makes you such that brings so many wonderful traits to the table, especially when you're working with a company like Icom America, for example. Our solutions-based approach hopefully will blends well with yours. When we look at the problem first, the solution that's trying to be addressed, and then putting pen to paper and then trying to engineer something.
100%. When I talk to, whether it's customers or sales channels that maybe represent the technologies or the companies that I work for, I think it's always important that we focus on the solution first and foremost. The technology is an element of the solution, but let's be honest, customers don't necessarily care what the technology is per se. What they care about is that the solution, the technology that you're bringing them, addresses an issue or a problem that they have. The technology is a result of the solution, but I think many times, we focus too much on the nitty gritty of the technology and not as much on the actual solution that the technology is bringing to the table. So excited today to continue talking to you, John Paul, about what are the solutions that are out there, and how can we bring our combined technology to the table for our customers.
I think one of the more important underlying guidelines that we all, when engineering any solution, we all need to operate by is the end user experience, right? If we prioritize that, then we ultimately have a customer who is pleased and comfortable with the solution that is offered. Would you agree with that?
Without a doubt. And we at Datalink Systems focus heavily on the actual user interaction to our platform, because I'll be the first to acknowledge that we may not have the quote prettiest user interface, but what we have is simplicity and ease of use. And that to me is much more important than all of the bells and whistles that you may find with other technologies or other, I hate to say competing platforms, because really we're very unique in what we do. But we really do focus on that end user experience. And at the end of the day, to get to the information that is vital to decision making and to see everything that they as a customer has from a mobile asset standpoint, whether it's Icom radios, whether it's smartphones, whether it's a number of other hardware, for example, the ability to log into one interface and see everything and easily communicate, report, and message these different platforms is of the utmost vital experience that we're trying to portray.
I think that's an important guideline, and it sounds like you definitely have it built into your operating procedures and your operating philosophy. One of the things that I've learned in my own public safety background was that salespeople could come in and they could offer you a widget with 78 features. Mm-hmm. You only needed 8, but they were going to sell you that 78 feature widget because that's right. That was what they had in their sales kit. And when I look through the Datalink portfolio, and of course study the capabilities of the data gate, and we'll get into that at a little bit later, it does truly seem to focus on whichever of the 7 or 8 features that a customer needs or wants, and doesn't try to put that square peg into a round hole. So I think that that's definitely one of the many things that has aligned our organizations in our current partnership. So let's talk a little bit about those command environments where you are aggregating this data. Let's talk about some of the opportunities that you've had to provide a stellar end user experience, and perhaps we can weave in some fun stories about how those experiences came about.
Sure. So I think maybe to look at what we do at a very high level, um, everyone talks about, especially if you've been in sales, an elevator pitch, right? If you run into someone on the street and they ask you, what is it that you do? You better be able to describe it to them in layman's terms, quick and easy. And so if I were to do the same for Datalink Systems, quite frankly, we are a software platform, first and foremost, that can communicate to any hardware, regardless of network topology. So what that really means is that we're able to connect and communicate to Icom radios. We're able to connect and communicate to cellular modules, black boxes, sensors, smartphones. I always say boats, trains, planes, trolleys, whatever a given customer has in the field, whether it's a person or a device or a machine, we can connect to it. But we bring it all together in one common interface, one screen. And that's really what makes us unique. And honestly, that's why I landed at Datalink Systems. So you mentioned some fun stories. Well, Datalink Systems was actually one of my original partners at Garmin, because what I was looking for were companies around the world that wanted to integrate our hardware into their system. That's exactly what Datalink Systems does. So I've known the leadership team at Datalink Systems for probably 10 plus 15 years now. And again, what we're continually looking to do is listen to our partners, such as Icom, our dealer network, and ultimately our customers when they have a problem or they have an issue that can be solved. We want to help. So we're always looking for new ways to integrate data feeds, new ways to integrate hardware features and functionality. And so as we continue our discussion today, we have some really good examples of what we've done with Icom, just most recently with your SAT 100 radio. So there's lots of capabilities that together we can continue to improve and bring forth to our collective partners.
When you build these solutions, without violating any privacy agreements or anything like that, what types of customers are you delivering these solutions?
Great question. So predominantly, historically, our company has worked with various government and militaries around the world. So for example, in the UK, we work with the Ministry of Defense. We work with MI5. We work with London Metropolitan Police. And so these are examples of customers that have a multitude of different requirements, different hardware, different people carrying different radios, vehicles, what have you. And so we bring all of that together, which is why a lot of times military government will actually come to us. So we have an example where the US Marshals years and years ago came directly to us because they saw a platform that was unique and different from maybe other competing technologies that they had looked at. And so we work directly with the US Marshals. So we're able to track and manage their mobile assets, which for them, mobile assets are people. And so we're continuing today to work with the Philippines government. We're working with Australia. We're looking to work more and more with what I would call local city government. So what you've seen, John Paul, when you look at our website, is we really focus on what we call vertical solutions. So we target firefighting, for example. What are all of the elements that go into firefighting, right? You have firefighters carrying radios. You have helicopters, water bombers. You have, command centers. You've got vehicles. You have all of these folks that are brought together. How do they communicate? How do they work together? How do the helicopters know where their guys on the ground are? How do the guys on the ground know where other folks are on the ground? Because if you've ever been in a wildfire, thankfully I haven't, line of visibility disappears pretty quickly. So someone that has our solution right there on their tablet can effectively see and manage everyone on one screen. And that's really where we can make a difference, whether it's local law enforcement, local city municipalities, schools. So for example, we do a lot with school districts, colleges, universities, because on their daily, weekly schedules, they have a multitude of people carrying different technologies. A lot of them are carrying Icom radios. How do they manage these people carrying radios versus those that are carrying smartphones versus sensors that are managing, doors, what have you? That's what we look for. We look for ways to bring all that together.
When I was looking through some things, I remember seeing this image of some firefighters walking through the smoky environment of a forest fire. And all I could think of was how beneficial it could be if you've got, say, 6 firefighters walking in a line, and they think they're walking in a straight line, but an incident commander miles away could tell the guy on the left that he has to start walking double time to straighten out their line. And when you start to think about what an accidental deviation to a course could cause when you're walking through that smoky environment, you think you really can sense the importance of a course correction. But inside the situation, there's not enough awareness to realize that one guy's lagging behind at a quarter speed or something like that, which is causing the entire line to articulate left or articulate right. So I immediately saw the value of the software to provide the information back to the incident commander so that that course correction could be made. And I think it's really impressive that those small adjustments can be made remotely so that the boots on the ground can stay safer or on target.
Without a doubt, at the end of the day, our combined solution, the radio that you provide for voice communications and group communications, as well as our platform that tells you where these radios are, we save lives, especially in the instance of a fire where they lose visibility. And the only way you're going to find them is with some type of platform that someone, a chief, whoever is on the ground, can pull up their laptop, their tablet, and be able to actually see where their firefighters are and be able to communicate to them on voice through the radio where they need to go, exactly like what you're referring to. So, the technology in that particular industry saves lives.
So let me ask you this. When that incident commander is rolling up on a scene, and obviously they've had some training on their equipment, and they know that they're going to get data from the P25 radios that are on the ground, and they're going to get that over the air through the repeater that's in place, or some series of maybe a repeater is localized, and then it's microwaved or satellite linked back to the incident commander. What happens with the Datagate software when a wild card happens, right? All of a sudden, a new group comes in and they have additional data to join into the fight. How easy is it for the Datagate software to just adapt and accept that information?
What you're describing is obviously a real world scenario. And we have the ability on the fly for a firefighting community to quickly add additional, whether it's radios, or if that's not an option, they always have the ability to put a smartphone app that we've developed that we call Red Alert. And this is the same application that we have utilized across many different government customers around the world. The idea being that you can quickly, as long as their device that they're bringing to the table has an Android or an iOS operating system, they can quickly download our app. They can quickly add that user to the platform. So now they can see their existing radios, their existing colleagues. But then if new folks come to the table from other agencies, that's probably the easiest and quickest way, is just to put that app on their device. If they're carrying a different radio, as long as they can connect to the mobile network that's already been established, to that base station, to that repeater, then they easily can be added. So there's flexibility and scalability built into our platform, and that's the beauty of a software as a service solution. Is you don't have to technically install anything. It's cloud-based. It can be added on the fly. Pretty powerful technology.
I think the critical word you used there was flexibility, right? Obviously, we all colloquially will call it, on the fly thinking, but it is the flexibility that is built in to the software, and that allows you to be more powerful. So I want to rewind to an earlier conversation we had where you were the out of the box thinker. You were focusing on innovation, and you were being educated using this critical thinking philosophy. And what I'm thinking is that years later, you've translated that into your organization's ability to remain flexible, remain innovative, and learn on the fly from the experiences. Is that a fair assessment of Chad Salmon in a nutshell?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's wherever I've been. I've got many stories over the last 20 years, especially at Garmin, because Garmin first and foremost builds hardware predominantly for, call it the consumer space, where I've always been focused on the business side, the B2B side. So I would essentially find ways to take the hardware that was already being built and adapt it to a different channel, a different end customer, if that makes sense. And then what we're doing now at Datalink is I'm going back to my roots and finding new technologies that Garmin, for example, with their inReach platform, or whether it's Icom and their Sat 100, we saw a huge opportunity globally to bring that in, and then we'll continue to look for new technologies that ultimately make sense for our customers and our mutual partners.
And that's what it's all about, right? Is bringing that solution and that the better technology to the end user, to the customer, and I think you're doing a great job. I can't wait to see what's coming next out of Datagate. The software just keeps seeming to expand and grow, and I think it's fantastic stuff. You're doing great stuff over there.
Yeah, thanks, John Paul, for the opportunity, and look forward to continue to grow and strengthen our partnership, and ultimately bring more and more solutions to our mutual customers.
Thanks so much for being here, Chad, and thank you to all the listeners for joining our show. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Spotify, and Apple for all things radio and more episodes of Radios in Action.